everybody. Welcome to my channel and happy Stamptember. Today is the release of the Stamptember Simon Says Stamp collab with Brutus Monroe. And this stamp set is called Treat Yourself. I'm going to do my voiceover here. I have 3 cards. I first started by taking a piece of our Perfect Blend cardstock and cutting it down to 3.25 by 8.5. And I'm going to line it up in my MISTI here. And for my background, I'm going to use the Prismatic Snowflake stamp from Simon Says Stamp as my background. I'm just going to line up these snowflakes and just kind of a random pattern, trying to use some of the bigger ones and smaller ones. And then I'm going to stamp them with a Simon Hurley ink. I believe this might be Prom Queen. I don't remember exactly. But I love Simon Hurley's inks. I use them almost all the time. And I use this pink. I just wanted some fun color. So after I use my anti-static powder tool, I am going to stamp this over the edge. Oh, there was the ink color. I am going to stamp it down, and then I'm going to carefully clean the stamps off and rearrange them and stamp them until I cover my whole background. In between, here I may have to stamp it a few times because my ink pad is a little dry and needs to be re-inked. I'm also going to cover my stamping with some Brutus Monroe Fairy Dust embossing powder. This is one of my favorite embossing powders. It's a clear, sparkly ink, and it just adds so much shimmer and shine to everything. So I say it's a must-have if you like to emboss. A little bit about Stamptember. This stamp set is only available at Simon Says Stamp while supplies last. There is a stamp and there is a die. They will not reorder it. So as it sells out, it will no longer be available. So if this is something you want, you will need to go over and get that. Don't wait. So I believe I did actually, now that I look at it, I did stamp them, and then I stamped them again with our Brutus Monroe embossing ink because I lined things up. I stamped multiple times. I did want to use some embossing ink over my colored ink, which is a good way to use colored ink, and then you can put the embossing powder on them. I was choosing my colors for this card. My inspiration was to go with a little bit of a different color palette than I had some other cards I will be sharing over on my social media. And so I chose a pink color for my snowman. You'll see that here in a minute. And so that's where I chose the color for this background. I did all my coloring of all of my cards off camera. I stamped all of the images with the Brutus Monroe Raven Detail ink on our Perfect Blend paper. And then I colored them in with various alcohol markers, both Copic and Olo markers. After heat setting here, I'm going to rearrange and fill in the background with some more stamps. And then I'm going to use that same ink to ink blend around the edges. Before I ink blend around the edges, I took this piece of Heather cardstock and I am just completely covering it with our embossing ink. As much as I can, I'm going direct to paper and just putting it on and saturating it, and then I'm going to cover this with our Fairy Dust embossing powder as well. This is a way for me to make a very nice, fun, glittery cardstock that's subtle without being the glitter. It's shiny, it's shimmery, and I love doing this. And I wanted to use bring a little bit more of the purple in. You can see off to the right my snowman here under my hand and that's when I'm using the purple. So I'm going to heat set this and use this on my background. Okay, now here's my background, and I realized it's bigger than I thought it was, and I like to have my backgrounds be 3.25. So I am going to trim this down a little bit so that it is better, so that I like to mat it on my card base and have a little bit of other color behind it. So I use a 3.25 and my card base will be 3.5. Then I'm going to do some ink blending around the edges with Simon Hurley ink, the same ink I stamped with the snowflakes with. Then I quick popped it in my splat box to splatter it with some of our purple chroma mists. I will link the chroma mist I used down below. I just took the nozzle off and splattered it a little bit across the front. Once my panel is dry, I took some vellum scraps from my stash, and I just gonna kind of measure it with my snowman here. I wanted to help my snowman pop off my background a little bit more, so I'm just gonna trim it down. Not sure if it's like 3.5 inches. I kind of eyeballed it, used my snowman for some measurements, and then I'm just going to trim it down. And then I chose the same purple marker that I colored my snow in with. I'm going to use that to, on my snowman, you will see that it's a BV color, a Copic marker. I'm going to use that on the chisel end and cover the backside of the vellum completely. I'm just going to swipe it across and just kind of color it all in real quick, and that will give it that little bit purple color. But because I'm doing on the backside, it will be a little bit more muted. There's not really anything special technique to this, just kind of scribbling it all over, making sure it's all kind of covered, trying to do long strokes so I don't have a lot of streaky strokes like through the middle, but just across, one from the beginning to end. Then after I wipe this up, I'm just going to use my scoreboard here. Oh, I'm actually kind of bend it around my card base a little bit, because that way I can fold it over, and then I can kind of mark it, and then I will use my scoring tool there. That's what I did, to just kind of reinforce those folds. I did not score it. I just kind of bent it over and then used my scoring or my bone folder to reinforce those folds. That way I can attach it to the back. That Heather cardstock that I used the embossing powder, you can see me lining that up here. I used some snowflake dies from my stash, just a variety of them, and I die cut those out for some extra color. I'm going to go ahead and add my vellum with some tape runner there, and then to the back, and just kind of fold it over, making sure it's nice and straight. And then I'm going to pop up my snowman with some foam tape. I also stamped and colored out the cone from the stamp set, and I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of that, and then I used the snowman to kind of help eyeball and rearrange it here on my card. I wanted it more kind of to the left. I am going to attach the cone first where I want it, and then I will attach the snowman ice cream above it. You can see that it's kind of hanging off my card panel a little bit. That's okay, because we're going to mat it. And then I'm going to go ahead and use some liquid glue to attach the snowflakes around on the background and different things like that. I actually decided to put some glue down on my glass mat and use a little foam dauber to help put it down. Grabbed my sentiment from the stamp set, and I thought I better attach that quick first before I put my snowflakes down. I also popped that up on some foam tape, and I will finish rearranging all of After touching my card panel with some liquid and wet adhesive, I'm going to add some flatback crystals around my card base and on the snowflake centers. And then you will see me grab my cloth. That is the way that I like to sop up extra glue, by just tapping it over my gems, and that will take any excess glue away from my card. Here is a final video or photo of my card. I hope you like it. I love slimline cards. And next up, we're going to use the apple from our card. I started by using some Jurassic cardstock. I have the measurements on the screen. So that's 10 by 4 1/4. And I'm going to score it at both ends at 2 1/4. This is called a bridge card. I saw it online and I thought it was really, really fun. It was super simple to make. You don't need a lot of supplies and it doesn't take very long. Once I scored both edges, I'm going to fold them in and use my bone folder to reinforce those folds, making sure they line up good. You will notice that there is an opening in the middle of my card. That is why we had a shorter card base to start. Instead of 11 by 4¼ we did 10 by 4¼ Once that is done, I have to use my sander because I have a couple of little stringies on the side of my card where my trimmer didn't trim it properly. I'm going to use some of our Flannel Season cardstock. Those have some perfect colors to match with my jack-o'-lantern, and this is the pattern I chose. I'm going to go ahead and cut that down. I'll have the measurements here on the screen for you in just a second. I love the pattern paper from Brutus Monroe. You get so many sheets and the patterns are so amazing. I'm going to cut this one down to 4 inches by 2, and I need 2 of them. Those are going to be for the top and bottom of our card. And then you can see here's my apples. I have colored them once again stamped them on our Perfect Blend paper with Raven Detail ink, and then colored them with alcohol markers. I'm just trying to decide which of the patterns I like the best. And then once I get the rest of my fuzzies off, I'm going to go ahead and add these pieces of paper to the top and the bottom with some tape runner. And this card is almost done. We just need a little bit more. Once I have those in place, I am going to cut down a piece for the bridge to rest my apples on, and I'm going to cut down an inside piece for writing a sentiment on here. I'm pulling out some Poison Apple cardstock. This is one of my favorite green cardstocks from Brutus Monroe. And I'm going to cut down an A2 card panel, but just slightly. So 4 by 5¼ I believe, for the inside piece. And then I'm just kind of seeing, do I like it like that, or do I think I need to add some more cardstock to, have that image pop off. And so once I get that in place, that's a place where I'll be able to write my message and stamp my sentiment. I can finish up my card. For my bridge piece, I was trying to decide what piece I want to use, so I'm going to use some more Poison Apple and Jurassic. My Poison Apple is 1 3/4 by 3 3/4 for the bridge layer. And then I matted it on, I believe it's 1 5/8 by 3 3/8, but I'm not 100% sure. I know that a lot of times when I do a matting layer, I will just mat it and then kind of cut it down so that I know that it eyeball it's right, because I can't always get them on straight. But I wanted to tell you, I believe that was the measurements for that layer. I might have those two backwards, where it was 1 5/8 by 3 3/8 for the layer, and the bridge is 1 3/4 by 3 3/4. I apologize. I do not have the card in front of me right this minute. I'm going to lay those two together, and then I'm going to attach my focal image on there. And to attach it to my card, I'm only going to use glue at the top part of my bridge. So after popping it, the image up with some foam tape, you'll see where I use just a little bit of glue to kind of attach it to the front of my card. Before I do that, attach the bridge piece though, I do need to line this up and stamp my sentiment. So I'm going to place this in my MISTI closed, use my magnet to hold it closed, put the bridge on there, and then I'm going to line up my sentiment, which is "You are sweeter than apple pie," to the left of my image, and I'm going to stamp that in Raven Detail ink a couple of times. Like I said, I need to re-ink my ink pad, and so that makes a fun little sentiment there. When you open the card, it works as an inner sentiment as well. Now I'm going to add both some liquid and tape runner to the top of my card panel or my bridge, and then I will attach it to the top of my card, kind of making sure it's closed so I can see and eyeball it from top to bottom. And then that extra glue I will just wipe off. And if it's still a little sticky, I can use my anti-static powder tool to kind of get rid of any of the stick. And that will be good. I also like the fact that I use tape runner because I can usually wipe the tape runner away with my finger. So I'm going to put my magnets down here to hold it in place, add some more of those crystals, flat back crystals, to my card. I just go for it and add them. I like to do them in odd numbers, 3, 5, 7, and I will quickly add those, and that will finish off this card. Here is a photo of my finished card. I hope you enjoy that, and then stick around. We have one more card to go using the jack-o'-lanterns from the set to make a fun, spooky Halloween card. For my third and final card, I'm going to start with some Raven cardstock here, and I'm going to cut it in half to make a 5.5 by 4.25 card panel. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have the exact measurements of this card. I just kind of went in and went for it. I'm going to score it at, I don't even know what that was, 2.25 inches, 2 inches, and then I just lined it up and cut it back off so that it was an A2 card panel, because I wanted to just kind of have this fun fold. It was completely just done randomly. Like I said, I scored it where I wanted to, and then I lined it up in my trimmer to trim it off so that it would fit it at 4.25. I was just using that green cardstock to kind of look and see if I liked it. I am going to use the poison apple for the inside. This is some of our Halloween glow paper. I thought this was really fun, and I trimmed this down to be about 1/8 of an inch shorter than my my little flap there. I'm not exactly sure, like I said, what the exact measurements were on there. I don't have that card in front of me once again, but I did kind of just eyeball it. I mean, if you can pause the video, you might be able to see the measurements on there. And then I am going to just kind of have some fun. So here is the poison apple. I do know I'm going to cut this down to 4 by 5.25, so that can go on the inside of my card. That gives me something to write on with this black card base. And I love the pop of the green. And you can see there's a little bit of green in this rainbow paper. And then I have my jack-o'-lanterns that I colored. Once again, I stamped them on some perfect blend paper with Raven Detail ink, and then colored them in with alcohol markers. Cut them out with the coordinating die. This is just another piece of scrap Raven cardstock that I'm just going to add to the front of my card to hold my jack-o'-lantern totem in place. There's not really a measurement for that. It's just a scrap. And then I want to attach that to my card front before I put my pattern paper on. So I'll quickly put in my inner piece, kind of eyeballing it here so I have a little bit of a black margin around the edges. And then I am going to add my adhesive to this, and then realize, oh yeah, I want to put that black piece on. So I'm going to have to pull it off quick before I attach it too far down and put that piece back on. I was not thinking about that. I left it in the video to see that we all make mistakes sometimes and we have to fix that. So I just peeled it up a little bit, added just a little bit of tape in that one little corner to stick it in. You know, unfortunately with this tape, it's not super sticky yet. So I have a little bit of wiggle room. And I just eyeballed it, tried to make sure it was straight, and then attach that back on. I'm going to go ahead and attach my totem for my jack-o'-lantern. Attach them a little bit more to the bottom, just with a little bit of liquid, or I mean a little bit of tape runner. And then I put some liquid glue right on that spot, so I know that I would definitely cover the whole thing. Because like I said, my tape runner I can kind of rub off easy if I have a little extra, but liquid glue kind of gets sticky anyway. And then I colored this little, I don't know if it's like supposed to be syrup or if it's like drippy ice cream or whatever, but I colored it in that fun green color to kind of give it a little bit more creepiness. And I just attached that to the back or to the bottom of my totem. And then here is my sentiment, which I stamped out and used the coordinating dies. It says trick or treat yourself this Halloween. I'm going to quickly attach that to the left between my totem and the pattern paper. And then one thing that I didn't like is that you could see my coloring beneath my image. So I'm going to show you how I fixed that. You can see here I used the die to cut out some white cardstock for the jack-o'-lantern totem and the little drippy thing. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a bunch of liquid glue, and I'm going to tape it on basically upside down, like if you were going to stack a bunch of them. And I also added glue to the white piece. I'm going to go ahead and I put the jack-o'-lantern piece on first, and then I didn't know if I wanted the poison piece to go on top or under the bottom. So once I stuck that on, I believe I peel off a little bit and I stick it kind of underneath is what I decided. I wanted it underneath the jack-o'-lantern. It's not perfect, but it works for me so that it cleans it up nicely. Now I did add some gems to my card. They were more of those crystals, but I did that off camera. So here I'm just going to kind of play around a little bit. I had these leftover bats from another card that were just sitting on my desk that are with Raven Detail ink, die cut out, or Raven cardstock, excuse me, that are die cut out, but I had heat embossed Scowleen embossing powder, which is a fun Halloween embossing powder, and just put them in there for a little surprise. And that is my card. It stands up nice. Here is a finished photo of my card. You can find me at Sugar Cards by Candy on YouTube, on Facebook, and Sugar Cards on Instagram. Please, if you like this, consider subscribing, give me a thumbs up. And if you would like this stamp set, head over to the Simon Says Stamp website. I will include a link to that below. Any of the Brutus Monroe products that are in stock, I will have linked below. All of those Brutus Monroe links are affiliate links, which just mean if you place an order using one of my links, I get a small kickback at no additional cost to you, which helps bring more content. I really hope you enjoyed this card series, and hope you will stop by and see more again. Here are one last look at the other two cards that I made. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.